Yeah, so the reformists are talking about bringing some slight changes to the already existing structures. So we have some issues that have been talked about, but they're trying to bring about my reforms. So this, the reformist type of feminism, they are mainly talking about bringing some gradual changes to the already existing structures that are existing in the different societies. Yeah, so what about the radical feminism? What does it talk about?
Radical feminism is a type of feminism that emphasizes on eliminating it's a type of feminism that recognizes women's place that might vary depending upon social conditions like race and caste, in which this feminism seeks to abolish the patriarchy in a struggle to liberate women and girls from an unjust society by challenging existing social norms and institutions. It's more like empowering women and girls against all those societies that empower men to be more advantaged.
To be more superior than women. So it's talking about the patriarchy. What did we say the patriarchy means? What does it mean, the patriarchy? The patriarch, it has to do with the men. So the radicals talking about the men dominating in society. So, yes, no, not all they are patriots. I mean, some of them are my heroes, but I'm not talking in that context. I'm not talking about in the context of my heroes, no. Or maybe the forefathers, because the patriarch also means the forefathers, Yeah. So it depends on the context, but we're talking about feminism. So we're talking about the context of feminism. So the patriarch, I mean the forefathers, but this context we're looking about women, the men having more power. So this type of feminism looking at the oppression, trying to get rid of the oppression or existing amongst women, whereby women and men dominate most of the things in society. So that's what the radical feminism is more about, getting away of the oppression that exists between women, liberating them, and not making men to feel very superior. They also want women to feel that superiority in society by getting rid of that oppression that exists between them. What about the socialists?
Socialist feminism talks about how women's liberation must be sought in conjunction with the social and economic justice of all people. Socialist feminism was in 1965 and 1970 as an offshoot of the feminist movement and new left that focuses upon the interconnectivity of the patriarch and capitalism. Socialist feminists reject anti-feminism and claim that patriarch is the only or primary source of oppression of women. Rather, socialist feminists assert that women are oppressed due to their financial dependence on men. The main goal of the socialist feminist movement was to rebuild more equally inclusive society, not only for women but also other genders. So the socialist feminists are trying to bring in that freedom for women that despite bringing in that men are the heads and men are the only people who should be financially stable and run the house or run the society, but female might also do the very same thing just like men do. If female have the rights to economic justice, to social freedom, to live how they would live, just like the others. So they're just trying to bring the equality, the social equality and freedom.
Yeah, so this type of feminism is also known as the Marx. So it's talking more of the materialism that exists in our societies. So they're saying it's not only the men who are able to own materials in society, but even women can even own them much better. So we heard they were talking about the radical feminism. When there was the radical feminism, which were only talking about the patriarchal in which men dominate and oppress women. But that's not enough. Even there is now this, they are coming in terms of the materialistic type of feminism, whereby even women can own the different social classes, connection with class system of private property. So you can see how they are not very different from each other, because all of them they are talking about the same things. There is only a very small difference that brings about their difference. But in all of them they're talking about women issues, women fighting for their human rights, equal opportunities in society. So it's like just one having just a very strong difference from the other, then you end up having a special group. So the different types of feminism that we've talked about, mainly they are just having very slight differences from each other. Maybe, but what each is building from the other type of feminism. So the socialists are also known as the Marxist feminism, or the more of materialistic, meaning that even women can own more or can own materials much better in society than men also own them. The reformists, they are trying to bring some reformation in the already existing structures that are there in their societies, whereby ensuring that there is abolition or revolution or things that are changing, not like the way they used to be. So there are those who are also known as the reformists, bring some change in the different sectors that are already existing in their society. You have a question? Then you have the last one, the radical or the separatist view of the society as fundamentally a patriarchy in which men dominate and oppress women. So those are the three main types of feminism. To be able to talk about them, should be able to let them in their societies, should also be able to give relevant examples. Now, what are some of the main features of feminism from the discussions that we have had? What do you think are the main features of feminism? A belief in social, economic, so it's a belief, the beliefs in, their features are the beliefs in social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. So they're mainly talking about the beliefs in social setting, economic setting, and political setting. From the text that we've looked at, we can see which they are talking about some beliefs in social setting. What is the type of type of feminism that mainly look at the social setting or the social reconstruction of a society? What type of, from the three types of feminism that we've looked at, which one mainly deals with the belief in the social construction, the social feminism? Then which one is talking more of the economic? the reformists, they're talking about the advocates for gradual reforms that are abolished, just to make some slight changes. So they will also be comprised in they're talking about the economy. But also even the socialists will also talk about both are talking about the materialistic type of things. So even the socialists also fall in the same groups. Then we have the political issues. Which type of feminism would mainly deal with this type? The radical, the fundamental patriarchy in which men dominate and oppress women. So those are some of the features that encompasses feminism. So it's more of just moving around the same things, key principles. They are just the same things that are just being categorized differently according to how they are being separated in the different types of feminism that we've just looked at. But most of them, mainly, they are talking about the same things: oppression and equal opportunities among women. Then let us look at the values. What are some of the values of feminism? So they're saying feminism, they have their certain values which are cooperation. First of all, when you talk about values, what do you understand by the word values? What are values? What do you understand by this word values? What are values?
What you believe in.
What you believe in.
Your values, yeah.
So they're saying that the feministic movement, some of their values are cooperation, respect, caring, interconnection, justice, equity, honesty, sensitivity, perceptiveness, intuition, fairness, morality, and commitment. So those are the values of feminism. Oh, we're talking about cooperation, respect, caring, interconnection, justice, equity, honesty, sensitivity, receptiveness, fairness, morality, and commitment. You can get all this from your portrait. So these are some of the values. Now, can we relate cooperation from what we've just covered? How do we see cooperation being portrayed in feminism? From what we've just covered as far as feminism is concerned, where do we see this value of cooperation?
It's being about equality both genders with their
That's how this value is being practiced, or that's how this value is being viewed in feminism. What else? What about respect? How do feminists value this value respect?
Their main focus is about women and their rights, but then they are making sure that they do not bring in the disrespect that would go with the other gender just because they are promoting the values of women and empowerment. So they are bringing in the gender equality and also valuing and respect for the others.
Yeah, that as we're seeing, we're looking at some of the values of feminism, and we're saying respect is one of the values. But you can observe, there are some feminists in society who lack this value of respect. They go further, extending, thereby distorting the whole view of feminism. But one of the values is that if you're a feminist, you should have this value in you of respect. You need to have respect, as our friend has just well explained, that despite your fighting for the equal opportunities amongst women, but in the course of exercising those rights that you have, or in the course of advocating for those rights, you also need to show some respect to the other gender. The fact that you are trying to advocate for their rights, that doesn't make them less of human beings. So we need to portray this value of respect. What about equity? How is this value being portrayed in feminism? How is it supposed to be portrayed in feminism? Equity. What does the word equity mean? What does it mean, equity? Fairness. So how is this value being portrayed in feminism?
Whereby they are not looking at the women, just women, but just women.
Can you come again?
Where they are saying they are looking at like the duty, not only women, but also other genders. That's feminine.
They are bringing up the equality.
Yeah.
So as we already talked about, that equity comes is the end result of the other thing. There's equity, that means they definitely are going to be equality. We can't have equality where there is no equity. So they're also looking at morality. Morality. How would you define morality? What is morality? Morality being one of the values of feminism. How would you define morality? What is morality? So, first of all, you need to understand what the term means before you start to explain it. You can't explain something that you don't understand. That's why we're looking at, first of all, looking at the term, the value, then we're looking at the explanation, how it's related to feminism. So I'm saying one of the values of feminism is morality. What is morality? Can you raise up your voice? You're trying to differentiate between the bad and the good. So how is this in line with feminism as one of its values? In the course of exercising this movement of feminism, they are saying one of the values that a feminist should have is morality. So as a feminist, you should be able to identify some of the good and bad morals in the society. You should be able to identify that this one is discrimination, this one is oppression. And you should be able to carry out how can I bring about equity, how can I bring about fairness, so that as women we are no longer categorized as vulnerable type of people. Then they are talking about commitment as one of their values. How is commitment and feminism at par? Commitment.
How they say they are moving and you are committed to doing your law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For example, if your movement is more about your movement is more about defending equal political, economic rights, you just work on that, not venturing into other.
Okay, so our friend is trying to bring about the commitment in terms of the different types of feminism that we have looked at. So if you're a feminist, then you identify yourself to different type of feminist, then you should also be committed to that type of movement. Command that does not leave out, because feminism just said it's a collection of different movements. So that's why now the respect comes in. You might be a feminist, but you belong to a certain movement, but you should be able to respect the other movement of feminism as well. You're supposed to be committed. Any questions? Any comment? At least now you'll be able to define what feminism is all about, what are some of their themes, the key principles, their types, and their values, and be able to explain what these values are all about. What about the ideology? Let us talk about the ideology of feminism. What do you think is the ideology? When you're talking about ideology, what do you mean? The main idea behind feminism. What do you think is? What's the ideology of feminism? Equality of men and women through political and legal reform. So that's the ideology of feminism. Equality of men and women through political and legal reforms. So the main ideology or the main idea of feminism is that they're looking at equal or equality of men and women. There should be equality through political or legal reforms. It is an individualistic form of feminism which focuses on women's ability to show and maintain their equality through their own actions and choices. So being a woman, you should be able to maintain equality in your choices and even in your actions. So the main ideology between feminism is equality between men and women through political and legal reforms. As you can see, we've just been talking about women equality. So this is the main ideology behind feminism. Now, what is if someone asks you, what is a feminist movement? How would you define it? If someone asks you, what is a feminist movement? So the other term for a feminist movement is women empowerment. Yeah. Feminist movement is also known as women's movement. Sorry. It's also known as women's movement. A feminist movement is also known as a women's movement, or simply feminism. A series of political campaigns for reforms on issues. So mainly they are looking at issues of reproductive rights, domestic violence, maternity leave, equal pay, sexual harassment, sexual violence, all of which fall under the label of feminism. So as you can see, we're talking about the same issues we've already talked about. A feministic movement is one which is refers to a series of political campaigns for reforms. So you carry out political campaigns for reforms in issues of maternity leave, equal pay, women, sexual harassment, sexual violence. A very good example would be I'll talk about the maternity leave. In the past, maternity leave used to be 1 month, but we saw women, feminists coming up fighting or campaigning for those rights. Up to date, maternity leave now is 3 months. So A feminist movement is a series of political campaigns. A series of political campaigns for reform. They want something to change. So either it has to do with maternity issues, equal pay, sexual harassment, sexual violence, anything that they want to bring reform. They carry out a campaign. That is a movement. Any movement carries out for a series of political reforms or political campaigns and reforms to bring about change in specific issues that might be of their concern. So in terms of feminism, they have their own areas of specific concern. It can be either the areas that we've talked about. Any questions, comments?